Welcome to another episode of AI After Hours. Each month, we cut through the hype about AI and answer your top questions and calling bullshit on the headlines we don't think really make the cut. Join us for a monthly roundup of AI insights and what's true and what's not in the world of artificial intelligence. Have a question or a topic you want to see us address on the show? Email us and join the conversation at support@aicareerboost.com. So let's dive into the world of AI together.
I'm your co-host, Yuying Chen-Wynn. I'm a product and technology executive with extensive experience in both AI and education ed tech. Currently, I'm leading applied AI at Peak 6 and focus on everything generative AI and actually understand what it means to meaningfully leverage AI into your business. And I really love talking about AI, especially with my co-host.
Thanks, Yuying. So I am Polly Allen. I'm the founder of AI Career Boost, where I spend my time helping product managers and business leaders navigate the world of AI and transition into AI leadership roles. I've spent my career in software development, product management, and I'm an ex-Alexa AI principal and manager, not engineer, manager, product manager, where I successfully launched the first generative AI answers on Alexa back in 2020. So I was fortunate enough to be recognized as one of the top 100 women of the future winner. I also really love talking about AI. It's especially fun with Yuying and especially fun with an after-work bevy in hand where we can get a little ranty.
With my extremely gigantic mug of sparkling water. But but it's a very, very large mug.
How healthy of you. I'm on the East Coast today. I'm coming at you from Boston. So I actually am imbibing. It's a New York beer, D-Hop 5. We're not sponsored, by the way.
This is very much brought to you by the California Healthy Lifestyle.
Awesome. Do you want to kick us off, Yuying?
All right, we're heading into our monthly roundup. February has been a busy month. We got a little bit of a break in January, as you saw in the news, because AI apparently still take a little break. But lots of news. We picked only the most important ones for you. Okay, Polly, if you're ready, I am going to start with the first one I am going to highlight. This one actually came out towards earlier part of the month. There was a scam, a deepfake scam, and this is probably one of the largest that was lost. So here's the headlines. Hong Kong firm scammed out of $34 million. So the Hong Kong is 200 Hong Kong million dollars, and the USD is probably around 34 million. So here's what happened. The employee originally got a text from supposedly the company's CFO going, hey, can you send stuff? He thought it was maybe phishing. So he didn't address it. Then he got called into a Zoom call, okay, with the CFO, with other employees that he knew, video and audio, talking about the acquisition. So he was like, okay, this has to be real. It was 200 million Hong Kong dollars across 15 transactions into 5 accounts. The employee was the only real person on the call. They attempted this with it. So that is the first big news of, we've seen some deep fakes, but I wanted to flag this one for you. Polly, what was your reaction?
I haven't actually seen any video, like actual footage of the call, but from the sounds of it, I'm like, I might have fallen for that. Like that. And I wondered if this is something that previously, when I was starting to think it through, I'm like, previously this might have taken a really large, organization to pull off, and maybe it doesn't anymore. I'd be really intrigued to actually see footage of it and go, do you fallen for this? Especially under the duress of like, you've got a text from your boss. You've got a meeting now. Are you really evaluating when you see people moving and talking and stuff if it is an avatar or not?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we're getting close to this being commonplace. And partially, I also thought, I was surprised how long it took us to get these kind of level of scams because of where the technology's at, right? I expected a lot more voice faking scams, a lot more fake jobs scams online with writing. It hasn't seemed to be as big a thing. I think there's been a rise that's been reported, but I was expecting like to be overwhelmed with this kind of scam.
Yeah. So I can tell you, I tried it. The voice is unbelievably realistic, and it takes like
What do you mean
minutes.
when you say you tried it? What did you try?
So I faked our CEO.
Are you
I
willing
did
to
it
admit
for
that?
I, for an AI compliance video internally to exactly warn people about this,
Got
and
it.
I did
Okay.
it with a fake acquisition video.
Okay.
And it was fast, it was easy, and unless you were listening for it, you couldn't tell. Like I had
Jeepers.
our chief compliance officer. He was like, "Okay, that is creepy," and I'm like, "Yep." And I would tell you, I only took like 30 minutes. I didn't even spend a lot of time tweaking. So I tried it. It is not
Wow.
hard. It does not take a long time or a lot of money, and
So I'm
that's
assuming we're
why.
not like supplying the instructions here because we might get in trouble if people. Okay. I'm not going to tell you
This is
how.
like
I'm sorry.
This is
Top
not like
secret.
contact AI career boost support to get the
No.
deal. So,
Why did I guess?
no, no, I'm just all right. Okay, so yeah, the main thing about this headline is it was both video and audio of they were all just taken from public footage of the people in the company, and yeah, it's realistic. So watch out.
Wow. Was like if you were thinking about it, if you knew ahead of time it was faked, were you like, oh, I could see these telltale signs, or was it like, no, really, I don't know how I would have detected?
I uh, I think it's difficult too because I've watched deep fakes to try to take those quizzes to go. This one is a deep fake. This one is not. And my detection rate was terrible, terrible. Yeah. So there's like
It's kind of
certain
like
artifacts
hallucinations.
and keys, but Zoom has virtual backgrounds, so it actually covers up a lot of defects that you're like, oh, it's just a Zoom background.
Wow. So should we just take this podcast, get some avatars going?
Yes, this is actually not us, guys.
It's a big test. I'm gonna like
Yes.
float like this.
So,
Like I don't know what they're doing on TikTok. It's weird. Like
yeah.
kind of. I don't know. It's strange.
Yeah. So, watch out is the conclusion for that headline. So that's a lot
Is
of
there
money
any
to lose. Okay.
recommendations for how companies can protect themselves against this kind of thing? Like I guess it's just like there can be no individual decision makers.
So what I put out in our PSA was if you think there was a request to take action, verify through another channel. Right. So one that only you
Who maybe
you
wasn't
reach
on the
out
call,
directly.
or who was on the call.
Yeah. I mean, I would say walk over, but you can't always walk over. So
Yeah.
it's
Wow.
not
So
that easy.
expect more of these, I assume. It's kind of
Yeah.
the conclusion.
Yeah.
I don't think this will be the last.
Definitely. Be careful. That was my entire thing was be careful, check through another way if you can.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Good conclusion on that one.
All right.
Wow.
That's the top one. That's your PSA announcement for our episode today. All right. The second one, Gemini rebranding. Okay. So this came out I think second week of February. So I don't know if you noticed. Number one, Google rebranded everything AI as Gemini. Gemini used to be, when it was released last year, just the new LLM model that was multimodal. Now, Gemini covers, so if you go to Bard, the web UI chatbot, it's now called Gemini. If you've ever heard of Duet AI, which in Google Workspace, the AI portion was called Duet AI, these are all called Gemini now. So, number one,
I
is
didn't notice this.
yes. Number one is it's a complete rebranding. So at least now, whenever we refer to AI at Google, it's Gemini. The second one that's important, which kind of gets overshadowed, they released a mobile app, Gemini chatbot, on Android, which you can set as your default. So you know how on your Apple phone you go, hey Siri, and then, you know, if we happen to have one of the Alexa be, hey Alexa. Now on Android phones, you can set that default and be, hey Gemini.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's very,
on
very smart.
Google Android phone only, but yes, on Google phones, Google and Android phones, not just Google Android phones, you can set the Gemini app as your default for your AI assistant. So
For
there's a
AI
lot of
assistant,
things
okay.
happening. Yeah, and then they also released a preview, Gemini 1.5. That's the LLM model update. So the whole bunch of things released together in this one big release from Google. So we talked about Google before when the Gemini model first came out. What's your take on this release?
Yeah, there's a lot. I'm really intrigued to get your take on rebranding everything as Gemini. I think it's interesting. Microsoft has kind of had this philosophy from the beginning where they have branded everything to do with like anything that interacts with you and AI is called Copilot. And not only is that like we're going to use this term consistently, but it has this nice analogy to like, hey, we're not taking over your job. When electronics started flying planes, we didn't get rid of pilots. We just made them more effective and safer and more efficient. And I remember thinking that was a really brilliant move on Microsoft's part to use that analogy and then just take it and run with it everywhere, right? And I think Google has maybe been like, ooh, what's our analogy that we're going to use that's different?
I hadn't even thought of that until you mentioned it, but Gemini is a twin. So they're using the and so if you've
Don't worry, we don't
looked
take
at
your
other
job. We
AI
want to
things,
clone you.
but I do.
Is
But
that
there
less
is
creepy?
the idea of I don't know. People were most of the references of my company around Gemini was around the WWE wrestler, Gemini, which did not have a good photo, so it didn't really help. But yeah, so in AI, there's a concept of the digital twin.
Yeah.
So I think it might be an interesting play on words. This is just completely hypothetical here, of
course.
course. Of course.
Yeah.
It's not
Don't you wish you
cloning
had
It's
a
just
twin that you could be off doing your day job while you get to
I
live your
definitely
life?
want a twin that's doing work and getting paid so I don't have to. That would be great.
Folding the laundry, all that stuff. A lot of the stuff I
Yeah.
want my twin to do is very physical. I need a robot twin, but
Yeah.
we'll get
We
there.
need to tap into Boston Dynamics on that one. Okay, so I do think overall the rebranding and consolidation makes it less confusing. Although
Right.
now, of course, when I ask about Gemini and certain features, it's confusing because I'm trying to ask about the LLM capability specifically and not what Bard does on the web AI or inside something. Yeah. But I think in general, it's good to brand it all under one. And I think it's interesting call out on the twin analogy there
Yeah, and I
versus
think
the co-pilot.
when you think about like what are the words that out of this have spread around the world, right? I think in a lot of places we're in tech world, so we know what LLMs are, things like that. But generally it's OpenAI or ChatGPT is the one that people are like just ChatGPT it, and that's rapidly becoming a verb the way just
Our
Google it
verb.
did,
Google,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
And then people talk about generative AI. Oh, ChatGPT, it works through generative AI. They might recognize
Yeah.
OpenAI makes this.
Gemini.
I think
Yeah.
that it's interesting to think about like, oh, Gemini. It feels a little more academic than Copilot. Like I don't know if that will catch on the same way. Especially until you said it, I didn't realize the reference to twins. One of the things I will mention is they mentioned their tiny model. They have small models called Gemma.
Oh,
Did you see that?
that's a new one. No, I did not. I missed it.
It's
was
just I think it's really
Nano.
cool that they're doing yeah, there's Nano, but I think Gemma is maybe small, like not as multi-purpose, not as powerful, whereas Nano is just as powerful, so you still need a bit of compute. One, the trend towards like smaller models that can fit on your phone are amazing. Like that's going to be so cool when the personalization that's happening is based on your behavior that's just between you and your phone and not the cloud. Like people want that. People want that. Well, it's just you're not
I'm
sharing
suddenly
your
like,
data.
well, maybe not all of everything I do on the phone, but
Fair. Like
all my
drinking
like
in
cat
public. Yes.
videos and all my like dog videos, cat
Cat
videos.
videos.
Oh, and
That's what
C
the
dramas.
kids are calling it.
And C dramas. Yeah, that's what the kids are calling it.
That's what we do on our phones.
Yep.
Moving on. I was just
Moving
going to
on.
note. I was just going to note my annoyance, which is maybe misplaced. This is maybe I'm too sensitive, but I was like, Gemma, can we stop calling the littler, less capable models, like
Female.
women's names. Like, oh, we're smaller and less
Yeah.
capable. Oh, so cute.
Let's name it Timmy.
Rubbed me the wrong way. Whatever.
Good.
Anyway,
good
very
flag.
cool. Interesting rebrand, right? That was super cool to see.
Yeah.
But I would love to see Google stop making these Me Too moves. Right? They just keep copying.
It feels a bit reactive. Yeah.
Right.
But I do think, like, I think I said it a little bit last time. I think Google's in the race. I think it is a two-headed race now, with Gemini and kind of consolidating of the resources. And I was really looking for them to because of their deep bench with DeepMind and their AI research.
Exactly.
They came up with
They've
the
got so
transformer
much.
technique in the first
Exactly.
place. Right?
They're the granddaddy of this. They've got
Okay.
so much more to throw at it.
So
Awesome.
that was
In
the
conclusion,
Google. In conclusion, that was a big Google generative AI Gemini update. And just for that, on the same day, I don't know if you realize, on the same day, because I think it's on purpose, but spoiler alert, OpenAI teased the preview of Sora, their text to video
Right. We could not mention
model with amazing videos. If you look up OpenAI Sora and look at some of these videos in preview only some of the cool people gets access. They mentioned potential filmmakers. It is with red team to assess for security risks, but I want to know what you thought about it. I know you looked at it the moment it came out because you're the one that's like, it came out.
So it blew up all over all of social media because it's such a visual thing. So what it is, you enter a prompt, a short text prompt describing the video you want it to create, and you get back a short video. And some of the videos that they have on their page is a demo, which they explicitly say, this was created without anything but the model. No, this is no trickery here. We're simply mind-blowing. They had everything from, hey, give me footage of like the California gold rush, and the film looks kind of grainy, like old-time video, but still in color. It was like a drone was panning over a gold rush scene. And meanwhile, there was also like, hey, have a camera actually following an SUV down a dirt road. There was animation examples where people were making up colorful creatures. It was really mind-blowing. And of course, they've cherry-picked these examples because they're cool. But still, even if it's half as capable as it seems, it's obviously blowing everything else out there in text to video out of the water.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is diffusion-based model. And I've played with other ones before. So Runway ML was the text to video generation I played with before, was pretty nice, but this is just mind-blowing. But my favorite part is if you go further down, they actually do show you videos where there were problems. And so it will actually say the weakness here, you can see like physical objects interacting. So they had one with 5 pups, I think, whether it's wolf pups playing around, and you can kind of see them merging and separating. So keeping the physical boundaries of physical objects, like, okay, total geek nerd moment, but I'm like, I love that. I'm like, I know exactly what why that's so hard, and, keeping those physics boundaries. And I love the fact that they show stuff that's in progress, the weaknesses and challenges that they're working through, which I really love, but I really hate the fact that it's preview only. And I'm not one of the cool people. You can watch Twitter.
Yes.
Or
X.
So
many people ask me if I had access. I was like, I really wish I was this cool. I am far from this cool. But yeah, obviously they've been asking, and it makes sense, asking people in media entertainment industry to be part of playing around with this, people who are known to be working on like adversarial prompting and trying to make it do bad things.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So
that's what they're
obviously
working with.
that's very exciting, but what do you think about the timing of announcing this on the same day? They could have announced this anytime.
Maybe Gemini wanted to do the big rebrand and it got leaked. I'm making that up. Who knows? But if that happened, that would be big drama, right? That they're like, well, what can we've got this thing that's big. I'm sure there's, in the eventual HBO documentary or TV show about this, the drama docuseries, they'll tell us all the behind the scenes and what went down.
Yeah, I subscribe to the theory that OpenAI was holding out until Google make an announcement and be like, yep, it's time to drop our announcement just to dilute the waters for the other side. I would totally write that into the soap opera. That was just,
Yeah.
if I,
Who leaked who?
yeah, exactly. And so they have one running. But um, those are the biggest stories. I just want to mention one tiny one. Everybody wants to go look at something called I was like, wait, really? There's something called the Microsoft UFO?
What?
You do? Microsoft UFO. Okay, that's just, I'm going to leave that to be as
An exercise for the listener.
Yeah, it's a fun little thing. It's, of course, like everything else, it's preview only. I think that one, when it actually goes live, will be very exciting. But this was a big month for like major updates that we had to bring in both. So Google big update, OpenAI big update on this, and somewhere in there, OpenAI actually also dropped their prices, which is, I think, even bigger. And then, but
Yeah.
the main thing is the technology is moving so fast. Watch out for scams, because they're going to get better and better and better. So that's our news roundup for February.
News roundup for February.
Over to you,
Thanks so
Polly.
much. The next section, we're going to kick off with some top questions. So these are either top questions I'm getting in my courses, we're seeing online. I happened to be in Boston this week where I was giving a guest lecture at MIT, and I got some awesome
MIT!
questions.
All right.
Woo, MIT! We got some awesome questions from the MBA students there at Sloan Business School, Management School. So first off, this would not come from the MBA students. I want to preface that because I'm going to get a little bit bawdy here. Yuying, does size matter?
Well, it depends on how you use it.
I mean, I'm talking about context size here.
Yeah.
You know.
There we go. Talk about context.
Context size. The as part of the release of Gemini Pro, Google announced that there's a new context window size, which of course is how much your large language model can remember of a conversation before it starts forgetting the beginning, right? This was a really big limitation when ChatGPT came out, and then Anthropic had made big moves where they were like the first one to have 100K context window size, which is getting to the size of a book kind of thing. And then ChatGPT matched it. Anthropic last month had quietly announced, I felt quietly, that they had doubled their context window size to 200K. They're obviously making that their big reason you should use Anthropic. Frankly, it was why I was using Anthropic. I was using it for some big text, things like copying and transcripts of videos. And then it was part of Gemini's announcements. They've announced 1 million context size. My question, the question I keep getting is, wait, like 6 months ago, we cared massively about context size, and that was seen as a big, value driver for Anthropic. But does it matter anymore? People have found ways to work around the small context size, and everyone is kind of saying, hey, actually, we'd rather do a little bit of engineering, maybe retrieve the context we need for your particular question, and actually answer just using that. That's more efficient, especially in enterprise applications to keep the costs low. Does context size really matter anymore? So I'd love to get your take on this, Yuying.
So it changed when the Gemini Pro one came out, and not just because they announced the
That's
1
good news for
million.
some.
In research, so I don't know if you know this, in research for Gemini, they have gone up to 10 million.
Right.
Yeah.
I did.
So I will
did
say,
I heard about this. So,
Right.
like, what's available on the market versus like it's growing. I mean, obviously, it's like 5x now, 10x within weeks.
yeah,
Crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So we're normally working with 8K, 8,000.
Yeah.
Right. Then it was like, okay, 16K, 100K was a big deal, and then 200K, like nobody even noticed. So there's a certain range of size. It's like between 5 and 8K, you're like, that really matters because I can't get a lot of useful things in there. Even with RAG, I have to get super targeted for it to work well. Once you got up to like maybe 32K, 50K and beyond, there's just not that much context I want to bring in just in case to improve kind of accuracy, what have you. So that's why I think like The 200K was just kind of a blip. Like I kind of noticed, I kind of didn't, because
It didn't
was
seem to
not
make any news cycles or anything, whereas before
right.
it was a big deal.
1 million. My first reaction was, hey, does that mean I can put an entire code base in? Which I still
Yeah.
can't, because 1 million sounds big, but it's not a large code base. 10 million, I'm like, maybe. The thing, it
Right.
comes back to this. Even if I had a scenario where that made sense, I have to not care about money and speed.
That's what I love about this. There's all these things that were like, cool, but in the real world, how do I use
Yeah.
it? Oh, well, as long as you don't care about money and speed.
If I don't care about money and speed, but I just need to throw way too much information at you and have you answer one question, and that question mattered,
Yeah.
yes. I haven't come up with that scenario yet. I know that I want to try it. Nothing stops me from wanting to be like, give me access right now. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but give it to me right now.
Yeah.
But if you go, okay, pay $100,000 so you can do something, I'll be like,
Right.
not
Exactly.
really, based on my income. And a big part of it is because of RAG, and the other part, yeah, speed and money. If it was free and within milliseconds, then my question to you, Polly, if it's fast enough and free,
Would you still do it?
then what do you think about? Yeah, we just
I feel
Apparently
like
we
there's a
don't need
lot of
alcohol
analogies
for
this episode. The piece that I think would make me question it as an approach, because a lot of people have asked, oh, so is this all these workarounds we built for small context windows, are they dead now? We've got a big context window. But obviously, yeah, speed and cost, they matter to some people in business world, but also the idea that people often forget that actually large language models aren't equally great at retrieving from different places in the context window. And there were a lot of studies showing, hey, they're really great at remembering things right at the beginning or right at the end, but they kind of forget the stuff in the middle. And
yeah, it's kind of how my
actually,
memory works.
you remember stuff very beginning of your life?
I was born. It was a light.
You
No,
drink
I'm
enough. And you
Yeah.
get there. It's like it wraps around, you have no memory. All of a sudden you remember being born.
Yeah.
No science behind this. I'm just making sure that's a disclaimer.
All right. Sorry. Back to the context window.
Back to the context window size. So when you put in 1 million tokens, you put in the whole Harry Potter series and ask it a fact about Harry Potter. It's going to remember things at the beginning and things at the end. It's going to not remember things in the middle. That is obviously like a huge problem. I've seen studies also showing that this is a problem OpenAI has been obviously approaching. It seems like there's some mitigations to those problems in newer models. But I still just think, from an engineering perspective, you're like, okay, there's an easy way to do it that is expensive and slow, that is using the whole context window where you just shove all the information in there and ask it. That's great for code users and developers who want to whip together a prototype. But as soon as you want to scale it for individual users, then it's worth throwing some engineering effort at making sure that you really only have the context you need for each interaction. So I think both paradigms are going to stick around.
I think you just hit on the perfect usage scenario, which is the VC pitch.
Ah,
Throw
yes.
everything in there, right? And you want it magic, you want it fast. Here it is.
Exactly.
Ask about any
Super
obscure
cool.
thing
And
about
then
Harry
people
Potter.
ask, how fast is it? And you're like, well, it will be this fast in the future.
If you give me money.
Exactly. Or just,
There we go.
I see this emerging as a product management skill, that ability to prototype quickly. People can build custom GPTs and test things with users right away to see if they want a conversational interface for something. You can throw these together in half an hour. Super cool.
Yeah. Mostly I want to throw a whole code base in and go, what does this thing do? Why do I
Right.
care?
Right. If you're only asking one question in one time. So in conclusion, size does matter depending on the context. But in general,
But
it's
it's
not the
not
size, it's
bigger
how
than-
you use it.
It's not that bigger is always better. All right. There is a
Not
limit.
the bigger is always better. It's not the size, it's how you use it. How you use your contacts
All right.
matters, especially
All right.
if you're a professional. Okay, we're not using this analogy anymore.
We're clipping that soundbite. That short is going to go on
Joel, take that out.
Instagram, and then we're like, wait, I
Is
thought these
Joel
guys were
there?
talking about AI.
Joel's our editor. Okay, Joel, we'll take that out in editing. Let's move on. Okay, second question, Yuying. The second set of questions I get, this comes up in a lot of contexts, whether it was the students I was talking to yesterday or just people in general right now. What the heck is going on with the economy, right? If I look outside of tech, particularly big tech, I hear, hey, our unemployment is as low as it's ever been. It's at 3.9%. Wow, actually things are looking up. I saw a post on LinkedIn where a recruiter was mentioning that in general, our economy grows by about 250 to 300K jobs in the tech sector a year. And every year we have about that many people graduating from tech programs, a lot of them international students. And it sort of vaguely works out. This year, in 2023, reportedly we have a total growth in the tech sector of 700 jobs.
Wait,
So,
what?
yeah,
Did you say 700? You're not missing some zeros or anything?
exactly, like net new 700 jobs because of the layoffs, right? When you factor in all the layoffs, et cetera. At least it wasn't negative. A lot of people would have assumed it was negative, but it's very, 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 it's basically zero, right? Compared to normal. And in this case, they were advocating for like, can we have some extra time for those folks who are on temporary work visas, H-1B, or students who have a timeline where they have to find jobs after work. I haven't verified those numbers, so we're going to launch out unverified reports. But I just feel like there's two very different stories going on about like 73% of companies are investing in AI. Okay, where are the jobs for AI people? You can't all get experienced AI people. That there's not that many of them to go around. I have heard that AI skills will get you higher pay. People are looking for it, but I think they're going to have to accept at a certain point, like, Sam Altman's not coming to work for us. Like, who are we? How are we going to, how are we going to get people into these roles and building this stuff when we don't have that kind of experience just in the economy as a whole? But at the same time, I hear such fear from a lot of people, and although the layoff headlines aren't helping.
Wow, that's a tough one.
What is going on? What do you think is?
Yeah, I think two things. I think
Throw
when
them
they
in.
say unemployment rate is low, that's a huge part of it being propped up by the gig economy. It's like the amazing amount of people that I've met delivering DoorDash or driving Uber. I actually met one in Silicon Valley who was a startup, and he was driving the kind of the venture corridor just to meet investors, etc. I think so. The unemployment number at number one, I think, is being propped up by the gig economy for people on DoorDash. They're no longer listed as unemployed. The tech layoffs, that's definitely been huge. At some point earlier on, I thought it was just kind of shedding the bloat that happened during quarantine. So there's a big boom in tech in a lot of sectors. Overhired, also people were trying to be empathetic and not lay people off or shed weight during quarantine. So there was a bit of a bloat shedding. I think we're past that. I think what you're seeing in tech is a massive pivot of, oh my God, AI is going to change everything. Let's rethink everything that we do and what we put our resources behind, right? So I think they know a lot more about what they kind of need to shed weight on than they do in terms of how to invest on AI. What I see across the board is at the executive and board level, everybody goes, we have to invest in AI, but that is not turning out to the equivalent of like AI job openings on the other side, because somewhere in the middle, somebody has to figure out what they need to do. Like, what AI is a very broad term. You can't just hire for AI.
I think this so aligns with what I'm seeing that I've been surprised to hear kind of a lot of fear and panic at entry level, mid level, kind of senior PM, everything under like a manager under a director or director level, because I've been seeing a lot of roles at these like director, VP, SVP level kind of postings. Like people are looking for top level people, and I think they're struggling with exactly what you're saying. Is they're saying, I need someone to come and work out how to make these investments. So I hope to be the bearer of good news. I hope I'm right. But my optimistic take is that there is this pivot, they're reshuffling, and that they're hiring at these higher levels in order to grow new teams where they were just cutting before in areas that they either saw as high cost or as something that potentially could be replaced later, and they wanted to be sure they were set up to do it well.
Yeah. So earlier last year, I think there was an article about like the head of AI being the new most popular job title. You have to wait probably at least 18 months for those people to get into roles and formulate the investments before the other roles will come, I believe.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So in conclusion, for our first size does matter, we decided that it isn't the context size window necessarily. It's how you use it. And then for the second piece of question we talked about, for the second question, the idea of jobs being really uncertain right now. I think they're very, very uncertain at entry and mid-level. But I'm optimistic that this represents a turnaround because so many companies are committed to investing in this space and are going to have to upskill because there just aren't enough people with those skills in the economy. Great time to invest in yourself and learn some AI skills, right?
Yeah, exactly. On your own or through a full program.
So you want to kick us off with our next section? AI. Oh no, I just admitted that Yuying is her AI avatar.
All right. So now we're in my favorite section of all sections of all podcasts ever. Okay, well, especially ours, which is the BS in AI section, where we will take either headlines or anecdotes and go, yeah, that's bullshit. Or we just highly object to it, and then we'll tell you why we object to it, etc. So, first bullshit, I'm going to start us off, Polly.
Please.
All right. So this is kind of a couple of things together, but I'm going to kick it off with this incident right around Chinese New Year in San Francisco where a Waymo vehicle was set on fire. They put fireworks in it, people beat up on it with a skateboard, etc., which at first seems like, what on earth? But
no people were harmed in this, right? It's just a self-driving car that was
Nope.
harmed.
It's a self-driving car. It was empty. It happened to be parked at an intersection. This is Chinatown, San Francisco, and they decided to set it on fire, put fireworks in it, blow it up, beat it up. There's videos of people beating up on this car. Now, I brought this one up not because I think I do think it's bullshit. You shouldn't just randomly destroy property because nobody is in them.
Obviously. Violence is bullshit. Bam.
Violence is bullshit. Everybody. That's our drop today. No. But I think this is related to a couple of incidents and the concern around the safety of autonomous driving vehicles. So there was an early incident with Waymo that hit a cyclist. It was visually blocked by a truck, and they saw the cyclist too late. It did stop, but it still hit the cyclist, but very minor injuries. Cyclist just walked away. But this followed an earlier scandal from Cruise, which a woman had been dragged underneath the car for 20 yards. The thing when you read into it was a huge issue. I do think the violence is an escalation of people's fear of the autonomous vehicle driving safety records. But I say, even if you look at the most scandalous one with Cruise, what happened was there was a hit and run with a human driver, nothing to do with the self-driving car. But the victim was flung into the way of a Cruise car, which if you think about how often this kind of incident happens, it's rare. So they didn't, it
sounded very complicated. I was like, I was never good at geometry.
Yeah.
What?
It misdetected where the impact on this car happened as a woman flying into it. And the car tried to pull over to the curb to stop for safety, but the woman was trapped underneath the car, therefore dragged 20 feet, which is awful, and there's a lot of things that quite right about it. But this, for me, the reaction of setting an autonomous car on fire and beating it up is, come on, people.
Yeah, it's reflective. I think there's definitely feeling like AI is replacing us. Generalized anger towards
There's fear,
AI
paranoia,
sentiment, and
anger.
yeah, exactly. There's that uncertainty in the economy. Not all of it is correlated to AI. Some of it's just interest rates and post-pandemic bullshit. But I can see it all conflating to people blaming AI, and this is like an example of that really showing its face.
Yeah, blowing, blowing up. And there's a part of it I do think safety records we need to look at in comparison to humans. A lot of this was, could a human have prevented it? In the Waymo case of that driver, because it was fully visually blocked, so it's however fast your reaction would be. But yeah, I do think kind of there's paranoia, fear, anger all mixed together does not equal destruction of property. Just for me is never okay, even when
I love how we're telling this to like drunk people on AI After Hours. We're like, yeah,
yes,
drunk people,
stop
think it
beating
through,
up cars.
just like us.
No, I think this is the perfect time to be like, stop beating up on self-driving cars.
Right. They're people too. No, they're not.
Because
But
they're
still.
probably going to be, those are probably the most safe taxis to get you home after you've had too much at a pub.
If anyone, isn't that the irony? If anyone should be a fan of a self-driving car, it should be the drunk
it should
people.
be the one that who don't want to drive. Like, move over, the car's driving. Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
Okay, bullshit. Don't
over
beat up
to
on
you.
self-driving cars. My piece of bullshit this week is about that same tactic people are using to work around context windows, right? The retrieval augmented generation, where they pull data out of, you pull the relevant data to feed to your LLM to answer questions. With recently I'm getting the question a lot, like, hey, does this just solve everything? Like, hey, I guess LLMs don't hallucinate anymore. Hey, this just solves all the questions of it answering questions correctly. And it's so frustrating. The ChatGPT store and the custom GPTs that OpenAI had launched, a month ago, originally in November, but the store launched much sooner.
right, yeah.
It's made everybody think, oh, this is easy. Like, I just throw a PDF in here and it can answer from the PDF. When it's like the engineering teams that are working on really highly accurate systems they know there's a whole bunch of problems between the PDF and the LLM that you're like, should it retrieve everything about the topic you're asking about? Should it retrieve only sentences or the whole paragraph for context? How relevant does it have to be? Anyway, it just made me a little annoyed that everyone is like, oh, great, we solved that whole hallucination thing, like with a click of a button, let's move on. It's great that it's put the power of GPTs in the hands of so many people, but part of the reason so many of the GPTs in the custom GPT store are so shitty and just an army of shitty bots out there is because this technique needs a little more refinement to actually make something good. You need a little more clear thought about what you want it to do, and you also need to have some engineering chops to be able to think about these problems in a more refined way.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, what bugs me is now there's 1,000,001 chatbot vendors that has essentially implemented RAG behind them, and they come in, their marketing is all, it's magic. That's just my summary of all the advertisement I get. It's magic. We're unlocking every knowledge you have. And I drilled in, and I'm like, I don't believe you unless you've actually worked with my documents. I don't believe you because I've worked with like 5 of them, and I can't get 4 of the answers.
Right.
And I know exactly what's in there, and I know why. Right, so it can handle tables well. If your metadata is in your title, it doesn't necessarily understand that well. If your query doesn't sound like what it wrote, if it's not very verbose, it doesn't answer well. I've gone through maybe 500 files, and I have problems. So you're gonna count me in and tell me it's magic? I just don't believe you.
I'm glad you agree. So I think that's my conclusion too. It's really just like, hey guys, everyone wants to believe, hey, look, don't worry, there was a hard thing that was hard before to get it right, and now it's easy. Stay skeptical, my friends. It's usually not true that, hey, it works for everything and it's really easy now. It's not true. If you want actually something that's going to be reliable, you're going to have to do a little more deep diving into both the evaluation to decide if it's any good and probably the engineering to actually make it good in the first place.
Yeah,
so that is our bullshit of the week. We got through our favorite section. And it's time to wrap up. That's all the time we have for today. So I want to make sure if we
that
have
was
any
too
plugs,
fast. No, wait, it's too fast. No, okay.
do you have any plugs for this week? Things you want to plug?
Of course. Now that I actually remember what my own newsletter is called, subscribe to Yuying Substack, where I give you very practical tips about how to use generative AI in your normal day-to-day task at work. But yeah, every now and then I rant, so that's kind of fun. I love subscribe to my newsletter, Yuying Substack.
That's awesome. It's one of the few I didn't push to my newsletters box because I'm I want to read this one. Hers it's great. Check me out at aicareerboost.com. We have recently kicked off another course on Reforge, so the next cohort isn't starting until May of our design and build conversational AI experiences, co-pilots, chatbots, etc.
And I've taken it, so I can vouch for it. It's awesome. Do the work. Do the work.
Do the work. The problem is the course is all about getting hands-on and building skills. We try to make it really actionable, but we're actually helping you build up a portfolio. If you're looking to get into AI, you have something to actually show potential employers that you've actually gotten hands-on with it. That's our course on Reforge. And I do have a monthly webinar free masterclass. The next one will be in March. So check it out on aicareerboost.com, where I've got more classes you can take advantage of, free and paid. And lastly, we always want to shamelessly plug our show. Don't forget to like and subscribe on your favorite podcast pipe and give us 5 stars. Please give us 5 stars. We'd really like that.
Or 10. It can average out. It's good. 10 is good.
Exactly. No. We've been drinking, so we're good at math. And if you want to reach out with questions, we'd love to answer. We'd love to hear from you. So send it at support@aicareerboost.com. Send us some questions. We'd love to hear what you'd like to hear about from 2 slightly tipsy executives in AI when you have a spare moment.
But we still know our shit.
Yes. The answers are still good. They're just tipsy. Well, that's been another episode of AI After Hours, and we will see you next time. Thanks so much, Yuying.
See you next time.
Bye, guys.